It's our culture, our community, where tech and capitalism meet. This is Cap Culture.
No cap.
That's real.
The virtual cap takes, or no, the virtual, what are we going to call this? Do we have a name for this?
Man,
We'll come back.
shit.
Come back to it.
Everything that we've been doing has been virtual anyway, or at least trying to.
Great.
I think this is low-key a better way to connect. Shit.
Like,
We're high
before we
key.
even get started, have y'all seen any like podcasts or video productions that have gone kind of like to this format with this? I haven't seen anything outside of what LeBron posted.
ESPN and shit.
Yeah, like outside of like, yeah,
like
I haven't seen a podcast like go, Zoom recording style yet.
But I feel like the podcast industry, right, isn't really impacted by something like this. Like, this is probably perfect for that particular field, right? For anybody who's in the podcast world, like the audio piece, isn't that
audio, yeah, but not video. Like video, people I feel like have to reformat how they're doing their production. Yeah, like everybody can't just like go to LA and go to a studio and record the shop right now.
right. But then on the other end is like but even from the audio, I would imagine typically a podcast like they're all together, so now they're not together. You know what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying.
So ideally, you would think that they would adjust, but I mean, I don't really know. I know a lot of people that were taking off right now, but I was like, damn, like this is a good way here. You can do it this way.
Yeah.
People are really just finding out. But shit, we getting in, man. Like, welcome to Cap Culture. I don't know, episode, day, whatever it is. I mean, clearly we all know why we're here and why we're doing this episode the way that we are. And we got a lot of things that we want to talk about as far as how the culture is really being impacted by COVID. But I mean, before all that shit, like, how are y'all doing? Like, how are we doing? Individually, personally, professionally. What's going on?
I keep eating all of my snacks. I eat all of them. I go to the grocery store, and by the end of the day, they're all gone. So that's how I'm doing. I don't know. It's such a weird time. I think the best way I can describe myself, I don't know about you guys, but I'm just hanging in there, like just trying to keep my sanity in check. I feel like at first I thought like week one of this, I was kind of thinking about the types of social people. So you have your introverts, and then you have your extroverts, and then you have like your, what do they call it? Like ambiverts. That's a combination of both of them. And I'm like, I'm sure like the introverts are chilling right now. My inner introvert is chilling. Like, this is going to be a breeze. But then like by week 2, I'm starting to get a little itchy, like I'm a little uncomfortable being in the house for so long. And so now I'm at a point where I think I'm a little restless, but I think I'm starting to figure out a new normal for myself, and realizing that no matter what type of social person I am, introverted or extroverted, this is still just difficult to like navigate. Like, it's all the way around a challenging experience, but I'm trying to make the best of it,
Shout out to you.
Yeah.
What's up, man? How are you feeling?
Man, so this came, so it's like interesting for me. So when it first happened, I think we're recording in like week 3 or like the tail end of week 3 of this. And it's just been like a huge adjustment on a lot of different levels for me. Like for the past 5 years, I've been traveling Monday through Thursday for work. So like I have this routine where I'm like always traveling. I'm always on the road. I'm always on the go. And this has forced me to like actually sleep in my own house, which I've been looking forward to, but it's different. So like week 1, I was just like geeked. I was like, well, shit, I'm at home. Like,
I think we were all coasting.
like, I was like, this coronavirus stuff, like, is terrible, obviously, but I'm sleeping in my own bed. That was cool. Week 2, working from home, like, I was like mad productive. Like, that was my productive week. And then week 3, so like this past week, that's like the first week where I really sat in it. And I was just like,
yeah,
it's like a global pandemic. We don't know when the end date is. Like, it was the first time, like, last week is when I found out that my family was personally affected by it. So that was like a different level. So it was just like a really hard week. And like, I've had to force myself to break routines that I've built for like 6 years in corporate America with travel and everything, and like build new routines. And as somebody that like gets anxious like often with like uncertainty and stuff, like I had to force myself to like come up with a routine and a schedule and like get used to sleeping in my own bed. Like, I didn't even get good sleep this past week just because I'm like, why am I sleeping in my bed on a Tuesday? Like, this never happened.
it doesn't feel right.
So it's a lot of adjustments. I think, going into next week, I learned a lot this week about myself personally, and we're going to talk about some stuff like that. But I feel like I'm going into a better place this upcoming week. So that's where I'm at.
I feel it.
How do you feel?
Shit. Fucking the first week was wild because we got the news and it sent us home like on Tuesday, middle of the day.
Yeah.
I didn't really know. Like, I'm one of those people that I really try to keep the external out because I don't like to process all that stuff internally.
Yeah.
Just try to like, it's natural for me to just control what I can control. So I was essentially a little numb to it, but I realized, oh, this shit is getting serious. So I'm seeing our business is going to adjust to it. So maybe it's time for me. That first week home was hard from a snacking perspective. B Mills, you was talking about like your routine. My routine was all the way off. Like, I had already just started a job like a month ago. Then a week, I'm back in Party Ground. Another week, I get back and we go to New Mexico. We go skiing. And then I come back. This is week 4. And it's like, oh, shit, we got to go home. So it's just been a constant state, battling. I haven't been able to hoop because of my ankle. So I was already kind of not going to the gym, hooping too hard.
Oh.
Like, but it had already messed up my routine. And now you sit me at home and all I got is my food that I had to go get. You know what I mean? Snacks everywhere. And like all this, I gained weight. Like, it was weird. But I was numb for those first couple of days. I was excited. Like, damn, I'm going to work from home. I love creating my own vibe when I work. And then I got the news that, okay, this shit is real. Like, Black people are affected. I know it's funny, but, we was thinking melanin was like fucking.
We knew we had
we was joking, Black people can't get it, all that shit.
Yeah. And then one of my close bros, one of my closest friends, we find out like overnight and behind that he's been dealing with it like this whole freaking week. So that just like, it all came crashing down. I think from there, my really concern was like, damn, like, I'm feeling like this, and I'm starting to see that the world is slowing down. That's what I do. I'm starting to adjust a little bit, get in a routine. Like, that first week I was gaining weight. Second week I started running and getting more active. But then just like even this last week, it was just kind of hard. I'm not even gonna hold you because I'm noticing with all these things happening, like, the world is freaking slowing all the way down.
Yeah.
But like, work, because of it and because of the particular industry I'm in now, which is essentially an essential business, weird and shit, like, it's moving fast.
Yeah.
So everything around me moving slow, but here I am, like, trying to balance this idea that socially everything is here and like it's a time to be extremely responsible, while on the other end, from a professional perspective, the demand is kicked up because things are rapidly changing and that fear of unknown. So it's really just been this idea of just kind of balancing back and forth and, really just trying to figure out ways to continue to be productive. And we'll get into that. But I mean, it's been up and down for sure.
Sounds like we can all agree that we're maintaining though. Like, everybody's keeping their head above water, trying to keep our sanity in check, and trying to be as progressive as we can during this time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and a quick shout out to my bad, Jeff. I just cut you off. Like everybody that's working in like the healthcare industry, nurses, doctors,
God.
line, like folks in the grocery stores. Like I went to the grocery store today and like seeing workers there like smiling, still trying to help you with your groceries, like while
Still
everybody
being
else is
nice. Yeah.
grabbing every piece of bread off the shelves and like just huge shout. I just wanted to make sure we start off the episode shouting everybody out too that's on the front line.
Honestly, and the front line is newly defined. It's not, I mean, when I think of the front line, I don't know, I have like this weird, like stereotypical, like, I don't know, I think of like military, like soldiers and stuff of that when I think frontline, but like even the definition of that is changing. It's our grocery store workers, it's our nurses, it's people that we never really acknowledged in this capacity before. We've always put like people who do clearly heroic stuff, like the soldiers going across the seas to fight wars and stuff. That's obviously heroic, and so it's so nice just getting that same type of honor and respect to people whom have never really been acknowledged to this capacity before. So shout out to all of them, all of our essential businesses that are still opening and staying open and still serving us with a smile on their face. My heart goes out to y'all.
Hey, for real. And speaking of that, my homie, he was on Kyrie, and they are running on the podcast, the pregame podcast. Yeah, definitely gonna promote that. But I mean, just the news that he's off the ventilator. He was on that thing for 2.5 weeks.
God bless. We love to hear it.
Blessings to them. Blessings to everybody in healthcare. Like you said, I think we should do a toast or at least a salute or cheers.
Oh wait, yes, a little salute,
It's
right?
crazy. I'm not gonna be on the soapbox too long, but it's the people. These are the people that like get like. Try not to cuss too much. This is my first day drinking in 75 days, so let me watch myself.
No.
Like folks that like people are like not even acknowledging like raising minimum wage and stuff like that. These are the people that we're talking about. People that don't necessarily get the respect in the hierarchy of business that they deserve. To your point, JB, just like hearing that states are not raising minimum wage, but now we're dependent on these workers that are working at a minimum wage, raising kids, some people losing jobs. Like,
I got a question.
That's something that I've just been thinking about.
Let's get to it because I got questions about that. Okay, so salute to all of our frontline workers across every field that's keeping us happy and healthy right now, really.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
So question about, Okay, question about that. Knowing that people have been fighting for a minimum wage, and if this is off topic, I'm sorry. Knowing that people have been fighting for the increase of minimum wage for these type of workers that have been kind of under the radar for a while, what do you guys think is going to happen once this is all over? I know that the way it's looking, this is going to be a long process, a very long, drawn-out experience, just because of the way our government is set up, the way that our healthcare system is set up. This is going to have lasting effects. So knowing that we can identify what an essential business is, and these are the same people who are getting barely paid, they're getting that minimum wage. What do you guys think is going to happen once this all blows over? Do you think new legislation will come into play where we can get increased pay and benefits for these people? Do you think we're going to move into like a more virtual friendly work environment? Like, what do you guys think is going to be the result of all of this?
We're going to fucking have to. I mean, it's crazy. And I saw a tweet, and it's not a natural thing, but it's something that I felt for a long time. But it's crazy how we love talking about free markets and capitalism, but it's crazy how socialism always comes back around and bail capitalism out and bail us fucking out. And I think that that's what's happening. So I can't speak on the legislation. I think greed is always going to be prominent and handy, but this is causing us to give ourselves internally and externally a reality check with respect to our systems and the flaws in capitalism. And I want to remain optimistic that that will create new laws, legislation, new ways in which we can interact and continue to put people before profits. And I think once we recognize and just acknowledge that, yes, capitalism and money is all good and that's what we're in it for, but all this is driven by people. And if people ain't well, if people ain't right, we cannot maximize revenue, potential, etc. So we have to put people first. People come first. And I think that this is giving our country, particularly one that's behind when it comes to the way in which we look at those things, really under a microscope. And it's going to flush. It's definitely, I think it's going to force us to make some changes for the good.
Like it's almost mandatory at this point. I don't see the structure that we have, like the way capitalism is structured right now, the way our economy as a whole is structured. I just don't see us ever going back to what we just came from. It seems like we're transitioning into like a brand new norm that is going to have lasting effects on the economy and the way that business is run and the way that people are paid and getting benefits. But I too, like you, I'm trying to remain optimistic, but I'm just so interested to see what comes, like what the end result will be from this world shutdown.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately, like I agree with Jeff to an extent. I think ultimately what we're gonna see is like culture shift, right? And not culture like as in Black culture, but just like culture in general and the sentiment of the United States.
Yeah.
Right now, JB, you were talking about it before the call. Like, there's kind of like an awakening. Like, we're seeing the inequities across, all kind of sectors, whether it's healthcare, whether it's capitalism and business. Like the haves, like the dynamics between the haves and the have-nots are like completely exposed right now. And I think we're starting to see benefits from just kind of, people are more human-centered, human-focused. Like even just like going outside on a run, like people are smiling at me and waving at me. Like that shit never happened
They're
before.
so friendly now.
Everybody's just like, good to be outside. But that's because like part of me is like, that's because we're in the dark right now. Like we're all in the dark together.
Yeah.
Once we're on the other side of it, sad to say, America was built on haves and have-nots and a hierarchy system. So I'm interested to see if like once we're on the other side of this, do we kind of re-expose what was already kind of in place and start to go back through it. I was talking to y'all before, like I was looking at the history. Like this isn't the first pandemic that we faced. This isn't the first market crash that we faced. Like we've been through 9/11, we've been through past pandemics, and we always kind of go back to capitalism again. So that's the pessimist side of me. The optimist side of me is America's becoming the most diverse place that it's ever been, from a focus on sustainability and corporate sustainability. We're the most conscious, Generation Z, millennials are the most conscious generation. So we're going to have more power to influence what capitalism or what business looks like on the other end of it. So that's the optimist in me is as long as we use this as energy to kind of fuel corporate sustainability and responsibility, we might be all right.
For sure. So, I mean, with that in mind, I mean, there's so much I know at the end we want to talk through, like the future and what that looks like. So I guess we'll have some things that we can talk through with respect to like, if we had a perfect vision of what the next or the future looks like, we can talk about that. But I want to get back to us. You know what I mean? I want to talk about us. So we talked about like how we've been feeling about it, but like, how are y'all like really dealing with it from a positive perspective? What are you doing right now productively, if at all, you know what I mean, to like really just get through this season?
Man, let me kick this one off. So I've changed my definition of productive. I've kind of I think this is in this period, there's a lot of realization that a lot of us have tied our worth to our productivity. And because a lot of that productivity requires some sort of social engagement that we can't really, invest in right now. I've taken a lot of time to kind of redefine what it means to be productive. So that has kind of minimized or at least, minimize my expectations of myself. So I'm productive simply by taking my dog on a walk now. I go on a walk every day for at least 3 miles, 2.5, 3 miles, just to keep my mind clear. I clean my house every day. I make sure that I spend time to myself between work and all of the stresses that come with that. I make sure that I dedicate some time to read. I'm really getting into some of the books that have been sitting on my bookshelf since the
What you
beginning
reading?
of time.
Yeah,
The
what you
Power of
reading?
Habit, ironically.
Oh, that's the perfect book for right now.
It is the perfect book. I see it right there. Yep. Great book. It's been great with me kind of helping myself get over some old habits that I have in my unproductivity. So I've honestly been trying to, and me being a planner at heart, like I'm so used to planning out my day and having things to check off on a checklist and stuff of that sort. So I've been trying to be kind to myself by keeping it short, sweet, and simple. So if I take my dog on a walk, I feel like that was a productive day. If I spend some time sitting on my patio reading my book, to me that was a productive day. I'm keeping it like bare minimum just so I can keep my sanity in check.
That's dope. I like how you started it off with the redefining productivity. Like I
Yeah.
feel like the first 2 weeks, all I was seeing on Instagram and Twitter were like these memes and like little posts about if you don't come out of this with a new skill and a new
Oh
house
yeah.
and a new that, like yo, relax. We are in the middle of a global pandemic.
LLC Twitter, please
Right.
give me a fucking break.
Like calm down. And, coming from a busy person, like I'm always like scheming and like working on something. People were hitting me up like, oh, so what are you about to build? Like, what are you about to create? What are you about to?
Is it necessary?
That right? Like, I'm just getting used to sleeping in my own house. Like, that's a feat in itself for me. But yeah, for me, like I was talking about before, like one of the biggest things that I've been focusing on is like building a routine and habits to kind of like calm my anxiety about everything that's going on. So I've gotten more consistent with like meditating every morning. So I like wake up now at 5:30 still. Like I keep my same routine, more or less. Do Headspace for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Do a devotional, read 10 pages in a book. Started doing yoga, which is like new for me. Doing yoga every morning. And then I get into my work day. So just like making sure that I'm still building a routine in the morning. And then somebody that's very active. So, I like live at the gym, hashtag accountability. With the gyms being shut down, I was like, all right.
How are y'all feeling right now? Like all of y'all, the ones that love the gym rats, I wonder how they're doing.
And I can't do home workouts. Like, I'm not about to sit here and like do push-ups and like, tricep dips on my couch. I can't do that. So I started running. So like mid-March, I started running more consistently, and I was like, damn, I'm about to hit 100 miles running in March, which was like dope. Like that was new. I'd never had a goal of doing that. So I started for April. I just started like an informal like running club, which is like kind of outside running club, just like encouraging people to just like get outside, walk, run. And the premise is just set a goal. It could be 100 miles. It could be 2 miles. I don't care what your goal is, and just kind of like track towards that goal in the month. Reach out to one another, build community. So that's really been my outlet, is just getting outside, running, walking. Shout out to JB for joining. You ain't logging miles yet, but it's cool.
I gotta put my mouth in the little tracker. I forgot to do that. But we out here.
And God is indeed dope. I see the shirt. What up, Jeff? What about you?
Oh, man. So, JB, you really touched on the idea of like redefining what productivity means. I think for me, being here has really kind of helped me. It forced me to kind of look at and really like look at my habits too. And I think what's been most productive for me is, doing things that I've been putting off even around the crib. Like I've been wanting to get more acclimated to like cooking and eating at home, saving money and stuff like that. Just by doing that, I've been doing much better about that since we've been on time. Organizing like my walk-in closet, freaking hanging up.
You better flex a little bit. You better flex with
that
not your closet, your walk-in closet. You better organize.
Yeah, because I mean, shit, you know me. So I mean, that's my thing. Like everybody got their thing. My thing is shoes and stuff. So you know, just getting that stuff organized.
Yeah.
Cleaning up on the regular, like being like more tidy. Because like for you, like when you have a busy schedule, I'm not used to being home as much, and I realize like when I'm home, I need this place to be as like smooth as
Create the
possible.
space. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, I went from like looking at my space, like, oh, literally like, oh, I'm just renting. This is just where I lay my head to like, no, this is my place. So
Yeah.
I've really been spending time making it my place.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Listen, by the end of this, I'm gonna have my apartment's gonna be like those Pinterest apartments that I see.
Hell yeah.
Like all the plants. I done found out that the nurseries deliver. I done ordered all my decor off of Amazon. It should be here by the end of the week. Look, I'm gonna have the whole space set up.
Yeah.
In a way that I've always neglected. I'm just like you, Jeff. Like I'm always like, this is just where I'm renting this place. It's not my own. Therefore, I don't need to invest like anything into it. But shit, now this.
I told somebody, I was like, if I go to somebody's house after this quarantine period and your house is dirty, like I'm just cutting you off rip.
Right.
We're cleaning it together after this quarantine.
Right.
Everybody's houses should be top tier by the end of all of it.
So yeah, that was like from a personal perspective, it's really been that. And honestly, you know, another key one is because I'm so moving so fast, and unfortunately, like I had to reprioritize and make sure that the people that I value the most are getting the most out of my time. You know what I mean? So especially my free time. So FaceTiming with my sisters so I can see my nephews, stuff like that has definitely been, you know, something that I would deem as productive. And then lastly, just from, you know, the party girl stuff and be nimble and everything there, like I am one of those people. I'm not LLC Twitter, but I'm one of those people that I feel the energy, and because I'm so connected and doing things for other people, I had to think like, damn, who's doing things for the people who are typically doing things for others?
Mm-hmm.
It's like all these businesses and stuff, like I knew that they were suffering during this time, and it was like, how can I come up with things, you know, in partnership with Kelly and through our foundation to really service them and do it in a way that's compassionate, culturally sensitive to the times right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, doing those Netflix party has been.
What have you guys done? Could you please let the crowd know what you guys have been doing?
Netflix dropped the Netflix party add-on. So every Friday we've been hosting like a community forum where you get to like log in to our link and watch a specific Black film with us. The second one was so we watched Madam C.J. Walker. We had a live Q&A with her.
How many people pulled up to that? If I recall correctly, y'all had a decent crowd, right?
Yeah, we had upwards of like 175 people that first week that at least signed up. I mean, the one thing is you can't fully track everybody that was watching, but through the commentary and all the notes, like it was pretty good.
Yeah.
The second one we did it on Uncorked, the new film, Black film on the sommelier, or whatever you want to call it. And we actually had a locally owned Black wine business where we did an IG live with them.
I am weak at Janae right now. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Cool.
I was completely distracted.
It's cool. She's cracking me up. I gotta look at you while I'm talking.
Right.
But yeah, so like just figuring out creative ways to service them. So this is an opportunity where, you know, they're an essential business. Another way to highlight them. So we're watching a movie about wine. We got a wine company based out of Indianapolis. How can we promote them and do it virtually? So everything that we've been doing from helping get and accelerate Black-owned businesses within my city is like that work shouldn't stop. And in many cases, a lot of our businesses are very vested in the physical. So how can we help them transition into a virtual ideology, like a virtual landscape? So I've just been finding a lot of value and joy in just creating that community as well as supporting them through the various things we did. Like Friday, we did an IG Live cook show where we had a Black chef that was teaching us how to make Henny wings while we watched the throwback film. Like, it's fun shit. It's free. We just want people to come together, but also indirectly, we're also supporting and promoting Black-owned businesses. So that's really another way that
that brings up a point. I know we're gonna talk about kind of like culture, COVID, and stuff like that in the future, but like, if you were gonna give 3 things and keep it short and sweet, like 1 sentence, no explanation, 3 things that our listeners or viewers can do right now to just kind of handle the situation, pour into their community, like whatever it might be, what would those 3 things be?
that they can do to pour into their community?
Or to just pour into themselves. Like we were talking about how we're kind of coping with everything and, you know, what we're working on to tap into the community or build community. And I wanted to just be able to give our viewers and our listeners some things that they should be thinking about.
Yeah, from a personal perspective, what you said 3 things?
1 to 3. I just said 3.
I'm gonna start with 1 because 1 just came to mind. From a I guess it can apply to both business and personal use, but pour into what you're curious about right now. This is a great time to explore the topics and the things you are curious and never had the time to really. You never had the time to spend more than like a few minutes looking into. I think this is a great time to explore your curiosity. Another thing that I think we could probably do to support each other. Oh Jesus. And I'm speaking a little bit from a privileged point of view. Like, I'm able to work from home. Like, I don't have much of an impact my day to day. I'm able to, my paycheck is still the same. The biggest adjustment I had to make is get used to working from my home office versus my office. And so I've rerouted the money that I would purchase on like online shopping, because I am an online shopper. I rerouted that to Black-owned businesses. So I'm sending my support however I can buy their services and their goods, whatever it is, no matter how big or small the price. I try to invest in at least one of those a week, no matter what their size is. So somehow pouring back financially, whether it's a donation or buying something small or big, it doesn't really matter. I think if you have it, I think it's important to push back into the community one way or another. That's coming from a privileged standpoint, so
yeah,
keep that in mind.
No, I feel you on that. Definitely finding ways to support. And I think one thing that I said is, you know, even number 1, I think this is a good time for people, and my number 1 tip would probably be like what Drake says, know yourself. Like, really take this time right now to figure out and identify what's going on the inside. Like, and disconnect a little bit. Like, take this time while you're here. You in the crib, most likely by yourself or with 1 or 3 folks. Like, take your time. And, you know, I'm definitely doing it just to have those intimate moments with yourself and get to know who you are a little more. And I think then it's going to reflect with respect to the way in which you're compassionate and how you give out to the world. So that would be what I want to keep away from the business.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, I completely agree. So, you know, my first one was definitely get to know yourself. And I think it's because we're used to being in such a busy world where we're going from point A to point B, and, you know, we have all of these things on our, you know, agenda and schedule to do, that we don't take that time to be intimate and understand yourself. Like, for me, I'm just like, damn, I'm like pissing myself off at the crib. Like, I'm figuring out like my habits that I don't even like. So yeah, so that's definitely my first one. The second one, which we haven't really hit on yet, is because I have a passion for like nonprofits and, you know, change agents and philanthropies, and these businesses are getting hit particularly hard right now because it's not a economy in which people are giving and donating from their time to their finances. So when we're thinking about like homeless shelters, we're thinking about, you know, just nonprofits in our city, they're not getting the resources that they need to keep their populations and their communities safe and to take care of those that they're trying to protect. And even just like little things like giving blood, like there's a huge demand on giving blood right now.
Didn't you do that recently?
Yeah. So I typically donate my blood at least twice a year when I can. Obviously, there's like rules depending on like if you get a tattoo or a piercing and stuff, you can't donate. But you know, there's a huge demand for blood. There's a huge demand for homeless shelters donating hygiene supplies because everybody's buying masks and hand sanitizers and soap for themselves. There's not enough for, you know, these businesses. So just, Janae, to your point, supporting local businesses, support local nonprofits and philanthropies as well, because they're also in need.
Yeah, absolutely. Emphasis on getting to know yourself, though. Like, Brandon, I'm just like you. I'm walking around the house mad at myself for some of the habits that I've always had. And it's such a great time to kind of release ourselves from any of these, you know, this unproductive energy that has kept us from honoring what it is that we really need to thrive in a situation like this. That has prevented us from really exploring the things that, you know, make us, that can help us define what it is that we really want out of our career or even our personal brands or whatever the case may be. So I definitely co-sign the whole idea of getting to know yourself. I feel like nobody has nothing but time now for these things. There's no excuses. Excuses don't exist anymore. Like, it's so crazy to see.
Say no specifically because you ain't going nowhere. You gotta like actually now you ain't got no excuse. So
there's
no beat around the bush where I gotta go here. No, you just gotta say, bro, I don't feel like it.
Right, yeah, you gotta be straight up. You gotta be honest at this point.
For me, like that's one of the hardest things, and I know we're just talking at this point, but like I feel like I am in it. So I'm somebody that like I don't just sit and talk on the phone for an hour and a half with anybody.
Yeah.
I don't like talking on the phone that long. I don't do like the whole FaceTime thing where we're just like staring at each other on FaceTime for 30 minutes. Like I don't do none of that. But like the amount of like random Zooms and FaceTimes and like phone calls and house party request, like a house party app or whatever request. I'm just like, can we get a schedule? Like I gotta like I have like 5 people are calling me on FaceTime right now. Like mom, grandma, friend over here. Like I'm overwhelmed and I just like shut my phone off and put it on do not disturb.
Right.
Like that's something that I'm trying to like manage right now.
Yeah, it's ironic. I've never been the FaceTime person. I'm not like the only time you'll catch me on the phone or video chat is when it's related to work. Outside of that, you can text me. But for like over the last 3 weeks, I have really started to show an appreciation for like FaceTime interaction and just like being able to like check in on my friends. Whether it's for a minute or so, like me and my best friends, we're really close. So like our bond is great where we can like prop the camera, like we'll put our camera up in a corner of the room with our headphones in and just walk, like we'll do our daily activities. Just knowing that we're on FaceTime with each other kind of helps with like our social interaction. And I've never had such an appreciation until now for that type of like, it's the simple things that are really keeping me level-headed and like, you know, able to see the next day through. So yeah, it's been a crazy perspective change, honestly.
No, that's real. And I think that's key. Going back to it, like for real, I don't like the phone. I don't like FaceTiming as much, but I've been on it. And I think that it's forcing me. That's one of those things going back to like me knowing myself. Like that's something that I got to identify with. Like, I guess that's who I'm going to be on this episode. Like what is unconditional love? And I think a lot of that has to do with also making those sacrifices. And for me, that sacrifice is genuinely taking this time to show people and do the things that I may not necessarily need or I like doing, but I'm going to be okay with it because I know that this is something that is servicing somebody else. So it's taking that same energy that I put in a party girl, be nimble, cap culture, work, and trying to put that same energy into the people that I value and cherish. And if that means I got to do FaceTime, just like I got to do this report at work when I don't feel like it at midnight for these COVID shifts, I'm going to fucking do it. Why? Because I can't figure out my nephews and my
Give
sister.
me the training guide. I need the cheat sheet because that's exactly like I feel like you made it through the dip and like you're on the upward kind of
incline.
I'm sitting here in the dip. Like I'm trying to understand how to like apply this same energy that I'm applying to work and everything else to, relationships and stuff like that. Right. And it's not that I don't care. Like I have to like convince people like it's not that I don't care. It's just like this is like a new kind of space and way of doing it.
You are here. Like I'm telling you like that. I think it's also juxtaposed against I had just turned 30. You know what I mean? Like these are things that I'm already dealing with and trying to shift my focus on. And then this hits and now it's like confronting me. Yeah. And I think that's why maybe in this season, I may not necessarily, like I'm handling a little better than peers. I'm blessed, but that's because my mind was already shaped on those things and getting back to like what mattered most.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I'm glad we're here because now we're talking about the root of it. And JB, you talked and you made that post the other day, and I was like, LLC Twitter, somebody called it. I was like,
Blavity Brunch Booth Twitter. Oh, y'all gonna eat the off of us.
But I was looking at Blavity Brunch Roots Twitter. I was like, the 3 Ds, like that's perfect execution.
We got the same 24 hours Twitter.
Yeah. Like, I couldn't even hold you.
Wasn't there like a Twitter thread where everybody was like, I
said,
yeah, there was a dude, I had to follow him because of that. But ironically, that post that I made, so like for context, guys, there's a post going around right now that says the following. If you don't come out of this quarantine with a new skill, your side hustle started, more knowledge, it's because you never lack time, you lack discipline. That's the post that you'll see a lot of these LLC Twitter niggas posting. I'm sorry for the language.
You felt that was passion jumping out right there.
But listen, like a day after I posted that, right? Because like I want people to remember, and we touched on this a little bit earlier, that we're all redefining what it means to be productive right now. You don't have to start a side hustle. You don't have to learn a new skill. What you at most need to do is maintain your sanity. Like that's your number one priority right now. Like just stay sane and like make it to the other side of this. And so it's not fair to have anybody shame anyone for not picking up a new skill. It's all based on what you feel is reasonable for your particular situation, not for what, someone else thinks you should be doing. Jeff, I see you raising your hands. Would you like to comment?
Yeah, because like I don't want to be like fuck them. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah, that's the word.
But I hear what they're saying. It's just funny because on Black Twitter in particular, they always talking about niggas ain't shit, blah, 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 niggas ain't shit, right? And then they'll say, when you hear that, if you know that you are the shit, just keep scrolling. And it's funny because we're having that same conversation with this. Like, I think that there's 2 different crowds, right? There's people who this doesn't apply to. So we can easily just say keep strolling. But I'm going to remain compassionate. I'm going to remain positive and optimistic about it all. I'm not even going to whatever at the jab at the people who say that shit. But now we're all seeing that, though. We're seeing that like, when you generalize, it's really insensitive as fuck, even if you have a great point.
Yeah.
What I would say is, just like what you're saying, JB, I think there's 2 buckets. I love putting shit in buckets at work, so I'm going to do it here. So you got the people who, you're not a creative. You are an employee, you good, you kicking it, whatever else. Like, bruh, like, take care of yourself. Like, that's your number one priority. You can remain that. Then there's this other side. That's the creators, that's the entrepreneurs. Those are the people who capitalize on moments, looking for the future. They're creating the future. And I think this conversation that we're entering into right now, as well as what the LLC Twitter should be focused on, is really that side.
Mm-hmm.
So in this moment, I feel at best when I am creating.
Yeah.
People who say that they want to be creatives and they're entrepreneurs, let's be honest, this is a prime opportunity right now. You don't have excuses because you have all the time. All the social shit, all that shit is cut out. Unless you're trying to join all these house parties, you have more time to do the things that you've been putting off. Like me hanging my artwork. You know what I'm saying? Me freaking buying a stationery like cycle. Like you can do those things, and I think this conversation should be geared towards that, just like them.
Yeah, but I will say, to that point though, I don't think you can put it into like two distinct, mutually exclusive
Oh,
buckets.
good point. Good point.
Like there are creatives, there are entrepreneurs that, they're in their bag when they're creating, but now that they're in this situation, you know, yes, they can create, but yes, they also got to keep their lights on. And yes, they also got to, be
Exactly.
kids,
Exactly.
teacher, counselor, principal. At the
Not
same
really
time,
exclusive. You're
and
right.
those that still have a 9 to 5 that just
Yeah.
got furloughed or laid off, they're in the space of, do I find another job or do I create a
Right.
side hustle that can pay and keep the light bill on? And like,
Yeah.
so it, I don't think we can, it's going to be a spectrum. And I think in this period, you can't just bucket people into A, B, or C. Like,
Yeah.
depending on the day, depending on what news comes out, depends on what is affecting people will determine kind of where they can.
1,000%.
I think we're all being impacted though. Like I think it's great if you have the ability to create a new skill or to start your business. Like it's great if you're able to do that. But like what I don't appreciate from that post and just kind of like from that perspective is like it's almost like if you don't do this, then you're immediately classified as an unproductive person. Like, and I think the post itself kind of speaks to how we don't prioritize our mental health enough.
1,000%.
I think that, during this time, like we all agree that week 1 we were coasting. Like, okay, this is cool. I needed to catch up on this rest. I needed to catch up on all this stuff that I've been putting off. But like as we creep into week 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like as this shit continues, you realize the value of putting yourself first in a general sense, like not, or in a genuine sense, not even and I was speaking to this point earlier, like a lot of us are redefining what it means to be productive and how a lot of us have put our value behind the things that we do. I think that post speaks to how people still emphasize their worth being correlated to the things that they are producing and outputting. I think that with this quarantine, we are getting to a place where we're forced to put our mental health and ourselves first above all else. Like fuck a new skill, fuck a new LLC, whatever the case is, like you have to start worrying about yourself. And I think we'll start to get that message as we continue forth. But if you're able to still, push out a new business, go for it. Like no one's stopping you. But I'm not a fan of the shaming aspect.
I've seen people post that post that I know for a fact they ain't doing nothing. Like you're posting this post for clout, but you're not even like, it's not even authentic.
It's not even relevant to you.
Like, I'm at the point where I'm just like, okay, whatever, I roll. I posted it on my story with like my commentary because I was just getting pissed off seeing it. But JB, I think you hit the nail on the head with one of the things that I wanted to talk about around mental health. My brother Rushan, he had like an online conference called Centered on Friday. And it was really dope. And, I think this is an example of those that are in the space where they can use this unfortunate circumstance to create and build something. I think that was an excellent example of it. He created an online free conference that, was completely around mental health and how are we coping in this new normal. And he had different clinicians and therapists on different segments talking about, how do you cope now that you're like with your kids 24/7 and your kids are getting on your nerves?
Right.
Like, how do you cope with a layoff? How do you cope with grief from maybe a death from COVID or grieving? Like people are grieving relationships. People are grieving not being able to work. People are grieving not being able to go outside. So it's kind of speaking to that element. And I'm a firm believer in you can't pour your best self into your skill or your business unless you take care of yourself first.
Yeah.
That's a period that, we're now in a period, as we've been talking about, where people can really understand their mental health. Their mental health is impacted in some way or another. And I think it's important to kind of know yourself, take care of yourself, so you can then pour into other people or into your business or into your side hustle or whatever it might be. And I'm starting to see, and I know we're going to talk about some different things, a lot of creatives are taking this opportunity and this unfortunate circumstance to create new spaces. And Jeff, we talked about some of the things that you're doing, which is amazing. But like quarantine, Jay, you tapped into quarantine con, right?
I was there.
You were there.
Was the perfect opportunity to socialize. Like,
first of all, how did they do that? They did that shit in like 2 days. I was like, how do you create
3 days?
Shout out to Scooter, and I forgot the other guy's name that put it together, but shout out to them.
Trayvon, I think his name was.
Yes, shout out to y'all.
Yo, that was so, like, I love Black creatives because it speaks to the whole idea of how Black people, you can put us up against anything. We're always going to find a way to like flourish and like thrive from whatever the situation is. And I was so impressed with the turnout, the platform they use. I've never even heard of that platform before, but like there were so many different aspects to that that made it engaging for its users. So, and there's so many different people that are doing that. Like Jeff, you and your groups, you guys are doing something similar to that. Like there's so many people that are like taking advantage of this moment to show you that just because we're shifting doesn't mean that we can't adapt. Like, and you guys are like the bread of like this entire concept of adaptability. And I applaud you guys. I'm tuning in.
I appreciate that. And for them too, I want to get back to that though. Like you're right. And I appreciate y'all for checking me. And I want to be clear. Like I think the shaming is the challenge. I think this all comes back to where are you at mentally?
Yeah.
If you check off all those boxes, like matter of fact, let's put it like this. There is, with or without your mental space, all that shit, this is a prime opportunity to be creative. The challenge comes with people shaming people and forcing and pressuring people to actually walk in there.
But isn't that what Blavity Twitter has always been?
Yeah. You said what?
Isn't that what Blavity Brunch Boots Twitter has always been? Like, isn't that like?
I'm not gonna engage in this dialogue.
Okay, all right.
It's cool. You know what? That goes out to Blavity, right? But I think what made that funny is because I counted it was 3 B's and I thought about the Better Business Bureau.
It actually
hey, we're not about to ostracize none of our listeners.
Right. No, that's real. I mean, shout out to them, like legit. But at the end of the day, like that's what made it funny was the triple B's. I was like, bro, like why are they catching strays?
Yo, Black Twitter is undefeated. But I think that you're right, Jeff. The shaming piece is the part that doesn't make sense. And I can, from the people who are shaming others for not being as productive as some other people are being, to me that speaks to like this mentality of inferiority versus some sort of like well, what do I want to call that? Like a elitist mentality. Like there's an elitism. Are we gonna talk about it?
You know what?
But I'm mimosa lit too, so let's get right into it.
Look, if we're gonna do that, I really don't want to touch on that fully. But here's one thing I would want to say. Okay. Right now, shout out to your brother, bro, like centered and all the positive things that's going on. But I'm also right now, I'm taking notes because what I know, especially in the landscape to which, we function, particularly with Be Nimble and our foundation back in Indianapolis, what I'm also noticing is all the organizations that are meant to be advocates for the Black community, whether it's homelessness, enterprise, entrepreneurship, I'm taking notes with respect to who's actually doing the work right now. Yeah. Because from an organization perspective, when these endowments come through, when you see the nonprofits and all these folks is actually getting that money, like how are you mobilizing that right now in a time where, as we know, when anything happens in America, our community is over-indexed on the impact, specifically from a negative perspective.
There's so much I want to talk about. Oh my God.
It's so much. And I'm like, bro, like I thought this is what you do. I thought that you got this fund to support entrepreneurs of color. What are you doing with it right now?
And we are impacted right now. So what's happening? Like
what's happening? I'm taking notes. You know what I'm saying? Period. Period. Where were you when we was in the mud? That's why we started the Out the Mud series. Because it's like, how can we talk and work with people who are focused right now? People don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So a part of just a small thing that's free with Zoom and all this other stuff is to really focus on how can we give people that free game or whatever we can do to just share resources right now to support while we wait for other people to step in.
Yeah, I'm gonna do 2 quick shout outs too to that point. I want to shout out to Daniel Calderon. He did a work from home party. It was like an online digital party, fundraising for creatives and those impacted in this time. Part of the benefits went to Two Fly Foundation, and we're helping students that have been impacted by COVID. So shout out to him. And then the other shout out would be to Collab Capital. I feel like they're doing the work right now. They're based in Atlanta. It's Jewel Burks and a few other folks in Atlanta that are like, they've quickly, like in a couple of days, they created like a resource guide for creatives, tools for creatives and funds for creatives to, you know, continue to stay afloat in this time and to, you know, build their business and things like that. But yeah, I feel like there's a lot of voices right now. And one thing that's been irking me, I just took a quick pivot, like celebrities right now, I hate to say it, they're getting on my nerves. Like, I know some celebrities are doing it to be entertaining, to stay relevant, but like some of the content that I'm seeing, talking about their board and they're, you know, socially distancing, but they're in their multi-million-dollar houses with like basketball courts and
12 bedrooms.
Like, okay, first of all, shut up. Use your platform to advocate for things that need change right now, because there's people in our communities that can't get tested. There's people that are getting misinformation. There's people that don't trust the government. They don't trust the healthcare system, that aren't going they need. Like, there's so many inequities right now that we can use credible voices of people that we follow and we trust, but you're doing FaceTimes and you're doing IG Lives all the time. And I'm not saying that that's bad 100% of the time, but use your platform to help right now. Like,
honestly,
I've been so annoyed with celebrity social media. I swear.
You're hitting the nail on the head. I think in this whole state of awareness that we're all going through collectively, we're also learning about the type of people that we've looked up to or used as like a source of guidance to some degree, or motivation, or whatever you want to, whatever the adjective it is that you want to use, or verb. I think that the celebrities are pissing me off just as much. I'm not a fan of any of these Instagram lives that are based in celebrities using it as a source of entertainment for themselves, like, unless it's not charitable or like designed to kind of like bring the collective together for like an evening of fun and relaxation. I'm just like you. I'm so annoyed by it. Like, you have this humongous platform, this reach that is beyond what a lot of us have, and yet, you know, you're just on here just talking about your day-to-day instead of talking about
Jeff is sitting on the edge of his seat.
Oh, please, Jeff, please, just come on in. Just chime in.
I ain't even gonna hold you. I love Club Quarantine with Tory Lanez.
No, that's not. But that's not what I'm talking about.
Like, that's okay.
You know what? I think what y'all are alluding to, and it's definitely important, right? Like, there are people who literally they get paid for entertainment, and their job and their service to the world is to provide that entertainment, that outlet. I love it. But it's the ingenuine. What I'll say is this. I think at the core, and this is a tip, this is a throwaway, this is feedback, whatever you want to call it. At the core, I'm right now paying attention to, and I think what everybody should be paying attention to is this word, compassion. Like, is what you're doing rooted in compassion? Mm-hmm. Or is it rooted in self-gain? And this is not a time to just explicitly lead with self-gain.
It's so easy to see the ones who are leading with self-gain.
For me, it's like, for example, like Jay-Z, like, he caught a lot of flack for his NFL deal. People have every right to be critical of anything. Cool, whatever. But Jay-Z's still doing the work because he's still sending masks to prisons who are neglected and getting the care that they need right now. Right. Rihanna gets shit for not dropping her album, even though I want her to drop an
I don't
album.
want to talk
But,
about
like, she's sending masks to New York. She's sending masks to, LA. So there are celebrities that are still using their cultural capital that we talked about in our first episode
Oh, tie it in.
to solve problems and still stay relevant and still, do whatever it is that they're doing. They can still go on live and they can still do, IG concerts, but they're still doing the work at the same time.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to speak on celebrities because I don't know what they might be doing behind the scenes. But from a visual standpoint, I'm seeing celebrities, post content of, just doing TikTok dances to stay relevant. Like, I want to know that you're doing the work. Like, show me that you're doing the work. Even if, you might want to be blind or you might not want to say everything that you're doing, but that means a lot and that goes a long way to me. And I feel like it does a lot of people in our community as well.
Yeah, and I think it also goes back to, if you know yourself, just like a celebrity, you got to know your business, you got to know your platform. And I think that I also don't want to see somebody that's known for talking all this over here to be talking about this now. Like, do it in a way that's truly authentic. Boosie, funny, he ratchet. He dropping off cash apps right now. Like, he doing stuff that's on brand. He's, doing some entertaining stuff. Then you see somebody like D Nice. I'm so happy to see people are starting to be hip to what he's doing. That's been who he is. Now he has a better platform, and he's been able to connect with Will Smith. They got the T-shirts. They give him discounts. It's going to COVID impact. You got Pierre Moss. Like, I think the idea is, if you're going to do it, genuine, authentic, and be compassionate. Be compassionate about what you're doing. And we're definitely seeing it. But speaking of that, like, so what are some of the things, I guess you say, some of the best stuff that you've seen, like, as far as people, like, being nimble and flexible in this space right now and adapting to the current climate to do something that impacts the culture as well as the people? Because, again, we're in the business of people, right? So, like, who's doing it right? What are some of the key things or highlights so far? I think this is like week 3?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I'll take a drink to that.
There's a lot. I should have brainstormed. Okay, so I'm biased. I'm a little like consultant, healthcare kind of nerd, and I geek out.
Okay, partner. Okay, yeah.
All right, not too much. Relax. I got coworkers listening. I think so there's a lot of things. So I think there's there's like kind of like 2 buckets that
not to interrupt. I'm gonna interrupt right quick.
I'm gonna interrupt. But I'm gonna interrupt.
Fuck it. Like, I'm interrupting. This is about to be a fun combo. So, but let's kind of organize it just a little bit. So when we talk about it, let's talk about like the culture, but then let's touch a little bit on like corporations. Because I think that's a good one too.
I'll start because mine touches on both.
Okay.
I love the organization, like the quick mobilization and organization around like these social platforms and like the battles and the live concerts and like this whole space. Like who organized it? Like,
hey, we need to hurry up because Teddy Riley and Babyface about to go on.
It's postponed. They postponed it. Yeah. I don't know. Timbaland just posted as postponed.
I have a theory.
What they got to do?
We're gonna digress. This is gonna be irrelevant when this comes out.
I have a theory on that.
Okay.
I have a theory on it. We're gonna get back to that.
Okay, gotcha. But okay, so my thing is who organized this like so quickly? And I thought that was so dope. Like even like last night, the T-Pain and Lil Jonathan. John
Garrett all up in the camera like
that shit. Like 250,000 folks tapped in at the same time, eyeballs on the same screen. And it really highlights like the attention economy. First of all, shout out to Alex Wolf. But having 250,000 eyeballs on your screen watching you at one time, like that's a moment. Think about like that. Think about how many 250,000 people is. Like that's not a concert. Like that's
way more than a concert.
That's like Woodstock. Like that shit's crazy.
Bruh. And Tory had 315.
Tory had 300,000.
He broke Taylor Swift's record. Smashed her. Like the culture right now, we own all of it.
But
so that shit is dope. But like on the flip side, and I was talking to my homegirl Chelsea last night about this. Like Facebook and Instagram are eating this shit up.
Eating it.
Oh my God. How much engagement like Instagram and Facebook has built on the backs of Black people in the culture.
Yo.
It's not their fault. Like, it's not their fault, but we fuel and power everything. Like, that's literally why we started this.
We have literally improved. Look, bro.
Yo, there's a tweet going around on Twitter right now.
Without us. People said it. Like,
listen, someone tweeted on Twitter saying that the only reason that a lot of us are surviving this quarantine is because of black culture in our entertainment, like our ways of entertaining. We know how to survive shit. Like
we know how to build some shit. Like,
right. Like we're not new to these type of restrictive environments.
We took pig scraps and all that shit and made soul food.
Yeah, like
our music,
instruments, like we literally in this pandemic, in a matter of less than 21 days, we're able to mobilize 250,000 people to watch the two people for 2 hours straight and have a whole conversation on Black Twitter about it and have What It Is Ho trending on Twitter. Like that is a moment in itself, and I think we should appreciate the fact that we can make shit like that happen.
That we took the time to do it. And it's like, now they have a use case for IG Live and how it can now compete with live television. Like that, I had this epiphany while I was drunk last night in the house party and watching all that shit. Bruh, this is crazy. We literally, and Coach K even said it. Shout out to Coach K. He also from that. Okay, Migos. Okay, QCC. He even said, I was like, I had the epiphany. Bruh, there is a new way to drop new music.
250,000. And that's what T-Pain did.
That
was
incredible.
That's what they did.
Incredible.
Like, think about
a new product launch is now happening on live.
Think about how many people, if you drop this song at that time from a streaming perspective, how many streams you will get. Like, you go platinum in like 2 days. Like, what?
Connect that with the platforms, right live. If you want to hear it, man, here's the key. There's going to be a way to connect, and I already see it now. Foresee Instagram, and they've already been doing it in the stories, Instagram and Facebook, connecting with these platforms, right? The Apple, the Spotify, or whatever else to embolden when on IG Live or on these live.
Conversations are happening already.
Swipe up to stream.
Swipe up. You can listen to it right now because right now the challenge is fuzzy, right?
Yeah.
But imagine if you release it and then we can all be listening to it for the first time through our own speakers in our own music while we're also doing a lot.
The conversations are happening right now. Business cases have been made. Somebody's trying to make it.
Think about Netflix Party from a music standpoint. Like, if we could all listen to Lil Jon drop his new track at the same time, and then the data analytics that company would get behind that.
Low key, I think that's what the original, like, maybe Listener was doing that with Rodney Williams when they were doing that. Like, you could go to a spot, you would go to a specific spot, right? And then, like, they would have that album streaming way before it even came out or whatever, like a virtual listening part. Now you can do it from your own home. Like, it's happening. It's coming.
Yeah, it's coming. It's on the way.
It's on the way.
Culture.
Period. Culture. And you know what's crazy about the D-Nice shit? Bel Air Athletics, which is also Will Smith, like their foundation and everything, backing it. I guarantee you, I saw him after he reached however many he had that one night.
100,000, yeah, over 100,000.
Next thing I know, his face is the NBA logo on Instagram.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, so now
is it really?
NBA. So the NBA hosted a live with DJ D-Nice. So he basically logged in. He did the live DJ set from the NBA account.
Yep.
You know how many sponsorship like the ads are now going to be embedded in IG Live.
Yeah. 1,000%.
And you know what's so crazy? one of the biggest things that has been a challenge in the industry in general is about being able to direct and fully see the value and the ROI of a sponsorship. Right now, you can see that in real time.
Yeah.
If you do an IG live, if we were to stream whatever else and we're all playing this, we can see and we can track how many people did this or that in real time based off of seeing and being basically being being able to see a specific ad. I think that's what the future looks like.
Shout out to D-Nice too for trademarking Club Quarantine.
Shout out to him. That was monumental.
IP.
Crazy. I mean, what's so wild about that? And this is the cool part, I think. Like, just about what we're doing and everything just coming together. He literally, D-Nice was a part of Boogie Down Productions. Yeah. He has been a part of hip hop since its creation.
Day one, right?
Since day one, D-Nice has been in hip hop. And now you see him from there creating it to now taking it into this new frontier.
Yeah.
Digitally. That is incredible. That's us.
Oh, shout out to him.
That is so fire. Of all the DJs, it could not be any other DJ but D-Nice when you think about it.
Yeah.
It could have been no other culture but us.
I found out about D-Nice too from my mom. Like, my mom was like, hey, turn on IG Live. D-Nice is like spinning Club Quarantine.
He connected all the generations. Like, that is just the perfect synopsis of how you can bridge the gap. Like, we talk about generational gaps and disparities within our community. And then we also talk about how, like, even segregation and all this other shit, all the communities had to come together. Ain't nobody doing shit else. Ain't nobody doing nothing else but black people right now. When it pertains to entertainment.
Literally going to be my next question is, are we the only ones doing stuff right now? I think I'm biased because
that is the foundation.
But like right now in real time, and I have bias because most of the people that I follow are people of color. But like, are there any other cultures or people that are doing things in a similar capacity right now?
I'll say culturally, from a corporate perspective, I think yes. From an individual perspective, I'm sure there is. I'm sure there are other cultures doing various things. But with respect to entertainment, creativity, like leveraging these things to be socially responsible, I don't think nobody's doing it like us.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like people are doing similar activities. Like Black culture, we all watch Tiger King. Like that shit had nothing to do with us. But like I know my like coworkers watch Tiger King too. But were they all on Netflix party watching Tiger King? Taking these memes and like, gifts and shit of like Lil Wayne looking like what's his name from Tiger King? I don't think so.
No. So that's what I would say is like cool. Like we're leading on that, and now more than ever, when we look back at this time in this critical time, we get to say Black people were at the forefront, and our culture was at the forefront of putting us at ease, offering that comfort, leading with compassion. And then we've got some great corporations. I'm not gonna hold you. Like, there's some corporations out here doing some positive shit too.
Yeah, no,
I'm saying, but like, as far as the one-to-one interaction daily, this is exactly why we create this. It's like, wow, like we are at the forefront. In every pivotal moment in U.S. history, there are Black people doing specific things that are.
On the same thing. I feel like from the beginning, once we touched soil, we had to focus on building community. Like everything that we do is around building community and a culture around it. Like from the beginning of time,
he was like,
what are we gonna do? D-Nice didn't do that shit to make money. Like if D-Nice was trying to make money, he would have had a website and like all that shit built already. He was doing that shit to build community. Community builds culture, and culture drives business. So like we were thinking about why business
cut the check
that they do, cut the check. 1,000%. Like
Black on too, but Cut the check.
I feel like that's like we build community, community develops culture, culture drives capital. At the end of the day, like that's the model.
Yep.
And no, there's no other cultures that do. I won't say that don't build community because there are, but build community that creates a public persona of culture that can shape and drive business. I don't see
and do it authentically, like going back to how we started. Like what we do better than any other culture is like a lot of shit we do is just in our nature. Like it's we're doing this because we genuinely just love it, and this is who we are innately. So when we're operating at our ultralight beam, whatever, like we're literally just doing it from that place. It's from a place of community, compassion, unconditional love. D-Nice went for 9 hours. Like,
God bless him.
I was tired. He had on about 12 different hats. He had like some chips and water, like
for the love of the game, bro. Like that's strictly for the love. Like we have that. That's what I'm talking about. Sacrifice. He's been sacrificing sleep, no matter what he's dealing with, family, kids, all that other shit. He just doing it. You know what I'm saying? So I love it. Going back, you mentioned Quarantine Con. We've talked about what we've been doing at Be Nimble with Party Girl, doing our Netflix parties, the Out the Mud series. You mentioned Rashawn. Am I saying it right?
Rashawn, yeah.
And his center, like focusing on mental health, it's so many cool things that's been happening in the culture. And I just cannot, like, we gotta shout some more out. Like, who else?
That's awkward. I got silent after you asked who else. You named all the ones I've been tapped into.
Yeah, that was the ones I was thinking of.
No, I think there's too many people to name in this space. But like the virtual fitness and the fitness space, I think that's a cool area to tap into right now because people don't know what to do. And I'm tired of seeing push-up challenges on my Instagram.
Oh my God.
But so I think there's an opportunity there too, because like where my gap is when it comes to like the fitness spaces, like that shit's happening all day, every day. And maybe it's just me. I follow a lot of personal trainers, but I can't train at the same, like I can't train when you're live necessarily. Right. And I think an opportunity, so this isn't necessarily a shout out, but is like, how cool would it be to create some type of platform that's similar to like the Nike training app or something like that, where we can tap into people's workout routines and like videos and stuff like that and support like personal trainers on our time. Because right now we have to do it on our trainers like virtual schedule or whatever it is. So I think that's something that would be developed if I had the capacity to develop it. That's where I would tap into.
Yeah. Carl, like creators watching this episode.
Yeah, hit me up. I got ideas.
I've seen a lot of the business coaches. Shout out to Alex Wolf. I mean, whether it's consultants and people within the community, like really just taking the time right now to really lead the charge with respect to telling people who are in a space to create, like where to go. So just shout out to all the individuals there. I mean, we all know them, whether they have a large platform or a small platform, they've been doing that. Been multiple Netflix parties going on. Shout out to the Black Film series, like Black Film, like their whole festival and everybody like that. Like they've been doing Netflix parties. They've been organizing house parties. Huh?
I saw, I think this is something similar, so my bad. But Ava's doing something right now, DuVernay, highlighting like Black indie films. I don't know if it's on a platform or if it's just she's shooting out the link to them. But like when you think about from the film industry, a lot of films have postponed like their dates where they're live. I don't know what the right terminology is. But like shout out to the people that are supporting like creators and Black films and indie films and indie artists, things like that, who normally wouldn't get the time of day right now or don't have the capital to promote themselves as they normally would. So shout out to all of them too.
Shout out to E Here Indy. I know they're regional and local to Indianapolis, but they've been doing a really cool thing to connect all folks to local owned restaurants.
Oh yeah.
offering like free delivery, et cetera, like that. Shout out to all the restaurants right now at Here Indy as well for offering and incentivizing like free delivery and just calling attention to right now to the local owned businesses and restaurants in this time where you can only order takeout. This is also a charge and it's a challenge because it's starting to show some more disconnect within our community as well as all of the folks that are chefs, et cetera, because the kitchens, the disparities with respect to the kitchens. Now you don't have no kitchen. You got to cook all this stuff here. Or maybe you weren't online. You didn't connect to Uber Eats and all that other stuff. Now you have to remain relevant or you're going to be shut down.
Yep.
Got to shout out Chef Gabby.
I just bought her cookbook.
Gabby,
the
cookbook she just recently released was like 2 days.
You have food at home.
Hey, and she came up with the idea. I don't know if she came up with the idea, but like shot, wrote, created, and distributed like in 10 days. Like that's impressive.
Yeah. I love some Gabby.
Shout out to you, Chef Gabby.
Absolutely.
But so guys, we've been talking for a while. Let's
I was about to say this episode about to be 3 hours long, so we ain't got shit to do.
We literally ain't got shit to do. So let's talk about like in closing, some takeaways that our listeners could benefit from as it relates to productivity or just any like general tips that we've kind of embodied for ourselves that we have that we could pass along as tips to our listeners. What y'all got?
I think the next frontier is this virtual thing. We have to pay attention to it. It's weird. I'm gonna just get this out there, but take an opportunity right now to see that you have to be very, you still have to remain solid with respect to your vision, but be flexible with respect to how you get there. Now that you know that there's really not much here, like physical is just as volatile as everything else, here's the time for you to focus on your digital presence as well as what the future looks like. A weird out there thing, I don't know if you watched Black Mirror, but I had another epiphany last night. What's gonna happen is this. So the virtual party, sooner or later, is going to be VR focused. You're going to be able to log into VR and go and be in the same physical space as everybody else while we're interacting in a live session. And it may not necessarily be with IG Live, et cetera, but it's definitely going to be there. So if I'm talking to the creators right now that's in this space, whether it's music or whatever else, get yourself ready, get acquainted with VR, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, and get your digital presence up. Because that is truly the future. And you need to make sure that if you're creative again and you're in that space, if you want to continue to monetize, then you have to figure out a way to be relevant even when they take away your physical presence. It's not enough to just be brick and mortar. This is something that we've been talking about for a long time. Now, more than ever, now you see what can happen specifically when they take that away. This is the first time ever it's actually been taken away in our generation.
Woo.
Well, that was good.
That was great. Yeah. Wow.
I think for me, I'll do it more. We talked a lot about it, like personal level stuff. I'll talk more about like a business capitalistic level, just what to be thinking about. Like for me, now it's time to start thinking about what the new normal is going to look like on the other end of this. Jeff hit on like what does experiences look like from a digital standpoint and AR and VR, but just like all aspects of businesses. So like for like the local shops and like the mom and pop shops that kind of focus on in-house dining and things like that. Now it's time to start thinking about like reserve and collect and pickup and e-commerce and delivery. And like, we're going to have to focus on what the new normal is going to look like, because after all of us kind of being in this space of you can only do pickup, we can't sit down and eat, we're going to build the habits of that's what it's going to look like on the other end. Larger corporations and those that, have brick and mortar offices, like, get ready. Everybody's going to ask, can I work from home in this position? And the answer is probably going to be yes, because we've been doing it for like 5 months.
And you can save money. Real estate's going to change.
So it's just, starting to think about what does the new normal look like on the other end of this. I think, from a supply chain standpoint, supply chains are going to change. Like, we're not going to be sourcing everything from China anymore, because just like what we saw here, once something happens in China, it locks down your entire supply chain. So we're going to see more onshore kind of like manufacturing and supply chains and things like that. Supplier diversity is going to be a big thing. So just, ultimately starting to think about what the new normal is going to look like and building that business model off of that. I think there's going to be a lot of spaces and thinking about what's being developed. I think there was a meme or something talking about what happened in the 2008 recession, and it was like Uber and Airbnb, and like these are the businesses that were kind of developed and are now billion-dollar corporations that were built in a recession. Think about what types of corporations can be built in this new model and what the new normal is going to look like. Like, we're seeing all of the attention right now is on creatives and people in like the creative space, because we don't have nothing but time to like watch Netflix. What are the business models for that in the future? Yeah. So no like specific advice, just start to think about what the new normal is and begin to adjust your business model and your business strategy off of that. Similar to what Jeff said, you keep the same vision, but execution is going to have to adapt.
Yeah. And I'll add on top of all of that, just continue to focus on your mental health. Like, just stay as sane as you can, whatever that means to you, whatever that process looks like. Prioritizing yourself and what you need in order to see this through, and investing in the things that you need in order to thrive. Prioritize that for once. I feel like a lot of us get caught today in what we need to do in order to remain productive. But now that we've seen a worldwide shift in productivity and what it means to be, and what it means to just kind of to exist in this world, I think it's important for us to prioritize our mental sanity and staying in that space for as long as we can, because it's not easy to be quarantined. I can't imagine what it's like for like prisoners in those the capacity of what do they call it? What are the prisoners when they are completely quarantined like all day long? Was that self-isolation or
solitary confinement?
Oh yeah.
Solitary confinement. Thank you. That word was not coming to mind. I can't imagine what it's like for people who are in solitary confinement. So knowing that we all have a little bit more privilege than they do, just finding ways to prioritize what mental health means for us and making sure that we're treading above heavy waters at all times so we can make these productive moves long term.
Love it. We definitely have been talking long, but it was so important.
Such a great
just let this stuff flow as we just think about the climate that we're in right now. And I think I know what this episode is going to be called. And I think the theme. So, we really built this to talk about the intersection of like capitalism, culture, and tech. But, I think we gotta rename the episode and rename our podcast, at least for this moment, Compassion Culture. That's first. And as we head out, like, thank everybody. I want to thank y'all for viewing. I just want to thank again. I know we all want to thank them. Everyone in the service industry right now with essential businesses, and that's on the front lines of this pandemic. And prayers, shout goes out to everybody that's personally affected. And just grace, humility, thankfulness for all the people on those front lines, and optimism, because we are definitely going to make it out. And just one more salute to everybody on the front lines before we head out. Cheers to compassion culture.
Compassion culture.
Compassion culture. I like it. It flows off the tongue really nicely. All right, I guess that's our closing, right?
Yeah.